I appreciate you joining me today. We're going to be looking at Solomon's prayer for wisdom today. Our hymn is God's Law is Perfect.
God's law is perfect and converts the soul in sin that lies. God's testimony is most sure and makes the simple wise.
Verse 2, the statutes of the Lord are right, and do rejoice the heart. The Lord's command is pure, and doth light to the eyes impart. Unspotted is the fear of God, enduring past all sight. The judgments of the Lord are true and altogether right. They more than gold, yea, much fine gold, are here to be desired, and sweeter far than honey from the honeycomb acquired. Moreover, they thy servant warn how he his life should frame. A great reward provided is for them that keep the same. Let's look at our passage. In 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 4, Solomon goes to Gibeon to sacrifice there. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. And the Lord appears and says, ask, what shall I give? What shall I give you? Appeared to him in a dream. What shall I give you? And Solomon, to his credit, he humbles himself. He's humble and he shows, you've showed great mercy. I'm like a little child, don't know how to go out, don't know how to come in. And verse 8, your servant is in the midst of your people whom you've chosen, too numerous. Therefore give to your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil, for who is able to judge this great people of yours? And the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked the saying. And the Lord said, because he had not asked for long life, or riches, or the life of his enemies, but he instead had asked for understanding to discern justice, that it would be done. And he was given a wise and understanding heart. And of course, he was also given riches and honor, verse 13. And there would be no one else like Solomon in all his days. All right, back to the account, and we cannot cast off on Solomon's prayer. And we recognize the importance of wisdom. James chapter 1 speaks about wisdom. The Lord spoke about wisdom. Who's the wise man? He who hears these sayings of mine and does them. Solomon asked for wisdom, and the Lord is pleased, and he is given wisdom. But as we think about Solomon, I wanted you to consider a few other ideas here from this same chapter. You might back up to verse 1. Now Solomon made a treaty with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married Pharaoh's daughter. Then he brought her to the city of David until he had finished building his own house, the house of the Lord, and the wall around Jerusalem. And you might just consider the point, Solomon, it was good to ask for wisdom. Perhaps you should have asked a little sooner. Because this whole thing, this chapter begins with him doing something they were not supposed to do. And the die is cast. We know what's eventually going to break Solomon. He's going to have 700 wives and 300 concubines. And I don't know if this was the first one. Probably not. But he's made a treaty with Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and a part of that treaty is he marries Pharaoh's daughter, and he brings her to the city of David. It's good to ask for wisdom, but the sooner the better. Verse 2, meanwhile the people sacrificed at the high places because there was no house built for the name of the Lord until those days. And Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of his father David, except he sacrificed and burned incense at the high places. And you might consider, just when Scripture says things like except, might be real careful about the exceptions. You know, how many times as we go through the Kings, And it says he was a good king, except. He was a good king, except. And it's just, frankly, it's a scathing indictment. You would hate for the Lord to say about you, he's a good man or he's a good woman, except. And we better be real careful of accepts, because that's probably, if I could say it, the foothold that the devil is looking for. You can worship God anywhere. Sure, you can worship him on the high places. After all, the temple's not done yet. Funny enough, even after the temple's done, Solomon's going to be going other places to worship as his heart turns away from the Lord. And as the Lord, and again, we can't cast off on him asking for wisdom. It pleases the Lord. But the Lord also does say, I've given you what you have not asked, verse 13, both riches and honor. Verse 14, so if you walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments as your father David walked, I will lengthen your days. Solomon awoke, indeed it had been, and he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. You might notice, if you walk in my ways, then I will lengthen your days. There's a condition there. If you walk in my ways. And so as we think about what has been delivered into our hands, and we think about our hymn, and we think about the law of liberty, we think about the gospel and the power of the gospel, and we abide by it. What did Jesus say when he talked about himself being the vine? I am the vine, ye are the branches. Right? We hear his word. As his word abides in us, that is how we have fellowship together. If we walk in the Lord's ways. If not, woe unto us. Wisdom is good, but you better apply it. And you better keep applying it. And Solomon, whatever his heart desires, he's going to end up going after when it's all said and done. But we'll talk more about that along the way, I suppose. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our Daily Praise.